And with every single release of a new Autodesk application, it is beginning to get clear that the guys working at Autodesk no longer cares about the artist anymore. Seeing the follow updates that have been made to things like Maya and now 3D Studio Max 2020, a couple of things that they have actually mentioned for this new release are supposed to be there for 2019.1 or 0.2 or 0.3 or even in a point something update. This application doesn't seem complete by any long shot, and I am particularly not okay about it. I think the thing that happens in Autodesk is when we complain about one particular product, the next particular product, say 3D Studio Max for example, says hold my beer, I'm coming. So let's talk about the very first thing that was actually demoed. So these guys came out and they said that the viewport now performs 2 times faster than the 2019 version. You might not really see all of that playback speed and all that stuff. It is entirely dependent on what you're doing at the point in your viewport. So in case you're just thinking that by default it's going to make everything 2 times faster, bro, that doesn't work like that. So there is an evaluation method that actually goes on in the viewport, and if you have everything working at the same time, you may probably not get exactly what they are claiming to have. But then if you on the other hand have very not so complex animation happening, then the evaluation method would happen properly. This is something that I think the guys working in Maya 2019 was trying to figure out, and I think they did a very good job there. I've not been able to get my hands on the 2020, but from all I've been seeing on the internet and every single thing I've read about this, I actually think this is more of a gimmick, and it should be something that should exist as an update and not as a new feature release. Speeding things up, they now talk about something that has to do with importing your files from Revit. Now, this is another new or another terrain altogether. Everybody knows that 3D Studio Max is amazing when it gets to do with architectural stuff, but I actually think that this is also something that they should have done, and it shouldn't actually be something that should be hyped about. I think the problem with the guys working at Autodesk is you make a pen and the next thing you do is you put a cover on that pen, and everybody in the world should know that there is something like that that exists. 3D Studio Max interconnectivity with Revit should just be something that they should have just fixed and let everybody just figure it out by themselves. I think the same problem that they did, or the same issue that I'm having with them actually celebrating the fact that you can push all of those things from Revit into 3D Studio Max, is the same problem I'm having with the chamfer stuff. In as much as I respect the fact that they've been working on the chamfer modifier for a very, very long time, and you know, they're trying to make this thing look so amazing. And by the way, in case you don't know what this chamfer is actually what you call bevel in every other app. 3D Studio Max just seems to call it chamfer for some reason. So this chamfer modifier that they're working on, I think it is something that should have made its way as an update for a previous version and not as something like a feature update for a new version. It is just so bad and so appalling that a version like 2020 sees just the chamfer as a new modeling feature. Like, what the heck? Why are we getting this as the only modeling feature that should exist in a brand new application that is being pushed out or in a brand new release? I think this should have just been as an update and not for the 2020. And just when you think that things are not going to get way more ridiculous than they should be, 3D Studio Max shows up with an AVI viewport exporting function, which simply means now that you can, you know, as silly as it sounds, you can now export your viewport playblast as AVI files. Like, why? Why is this actually happening to us? AVI in 2019, everybody has actually moved to something like either QuickTime or MP4. AVI is unnecessarily heavy, and now they're saying they're adding up codecs that are being supported by the guys at TechSmith, the guys that actually make Camtasia, Microsoft, Intel. We don't care. I actually don't care about that. What I care more about is get something that fixes or something that works with the present day. I think it makes more sense than taking us back to 1994. Just when I was about shutting down my computer because I was so pissed about the entire thing that these guys have showed up with, I see the Open Shader language has a new update. And this is actually one of the things that I think these guys actually worked on so much that is a plus for them. So the Open Shader language now has more of an improved shading system. They've actually worked a lot about this one. I'm going to give them kudos for this. yeah, there's just about another thing about the OSL that I am actually wondering, why is this in 3D Studio Max? The fact that you can key out a green screen, like, why? I don't know how many people actually use 3D Studio Max for VFX. I understand if you want to use it as references, that makes sense. You can actually just cut off your PNG and bring in your PNG directly into 3D Studio Max. But then my big question is, why is this possible? Why are we actually having a green screen keyer there? It's not like you use 3D Studio Max for a lot of VFX things directly there. You don't even compose in 3D Studio Max. Like, what the heck are we doing with the green screen thingy? But then I have to give them kudos, guys. The pattern stuff, the thing that you can do procedural or texturing with, makes a lot of sense. I like that one. And yeah, in case you're wondering if I kind of forgot about the MPR, no, I did not forget about the MPR. I just didn't see it necessary to talk about it. And just in case you're wondering, there is now an MPR that exists in 3D Studio Max. Like, finally, you can now get that working as good as it is. But now I'm wondering, should I actually do the MPR thing there, or maybe I should just go to Blender? Now, some guys are winking and say, I know what you're trying to do. And another guys are saying, you know, we can actually still ship this thing to ZBrush and do it directly there. I don't know what you guys think about this. I just think that for some reason, MPR is not what you guys need right now in 3D Studio Max. I think they need to actually rework the entire UI and also fix those things that are too buggy and that doesn't make sense that exist in 3D Studio Max. Like, why are we having so many modifiers that does exactly the same thing, or similarly ridiculous things like that looks alike? I don't know why we're having those things there. You have your cloth, you have the M cloth, and you have the garment maker. It's the same thing, guys, and I don't know why we're having that there. We have the turbo smooth, we have the tessellation, we have the mesh smooth, we have the smooth, we have the open sub div. All of those things are kind of boring, and I don't know why we're having all of those things there. I think we should actually consider looking more at performance and reworking the entire UI than doing all of these things. And for some reason, I think maybe 3D Studio Max have actually reached its echelon. I think it has gotten to that point where Modbox got and there was no longer development for it. I think that is what we're actually seeing now. For them to actually come up with something like a chamfer as a modeling feature for 2020, it breaks my heart so much, and I'm actually not happy about it. Now I'm going to stop ranting and tell you what the future projection of 3D Studio Max is, because these guys have actually come up with some things and they're saying this is the roadmap for 3D Studio Max. And I wish, as much as I could wish right now, that these roadmaps should have made their way to 2020. I believe if these things had happened, then 3D Studio Max would have been the most celebrated app of the year from Autodesk. Now let's talk about roadmap for the 3D Studio Max 2020. It is just something that I would just laugh at, because these things are things that everybody by now should have been seen in 2020, but now they're pushing all of these things to 2020.1 and probably in 2021. The very first thing that they're talking about is they are going to create more procedural tools, and I'm wondering whatever happened to the MCG. When they created the Max Creation Graph, I felt that this was the chance for 3D Studio Max to take on the lead and champion procedural object creation and material creation and all of those things, but then it didn't work. I think maybe they either fired or hired someone else, but something happened along the line, and that seems to be a project on hold, because since we didn't see it in 2020, it simply means there is no development that is going towards that. Next in which they say they are going to, go ahead and work more on is the shape boolean and spline modifier. Cool things that they say they are coming out with are things that are actually mind troubling. Sometimes when they talk about things that they're trying to release and you figure out that these things are things that have already been existing in various apps, you begin to wonder, why are these guys thinking in a sort of a reverse order? So the new thing which is going to come out later in the year is something that has to do with you being able to tear out your viewport. And at this point, I have no words for them. I mean, this is 2020 that they are releasing, and I just don't know why the rush happened. I wish they had spent a lot of time trying to create these things and make it possible. I'm very grateful to them from 2017 and 2018, the fact that you can now tear out your menu. And this was one thing that I really wish they could do a long time, but then they ended up doing it in 2017 and also in 2018. But now I'm wondering, why is it not possible for us to be able to use a multi-screen desktop? I mean, like, why can't you use a multi-monitor to actually work on 3D Studio Max? It's very obvious that before you can actually do that, you need to have 2 copies of 3D Studio Max open. So you can only work on one screen on 3D Studio Max at a particular point in time. What I mean is you don't have the ability to tear out your viewport and work in a different view and also work in another view. Something that is very common with other apps like Cinema 4D, Houdini, Maya, and also Blender. And I also think it's something that's very possible with Modo. In subsequent release, they are saying that they will be able to come out with the Arnold GPU renderer. And I really wish that the Arnold GPU renderer was shipped with this version, because it is something that everybody is hyped about. We are all excited about the new Arnold. Either ways, we know that Arnold is not even close as fast as Redshift is, but then it's Arnold, it's Autodesk. I wish they even actually added the beta version with this one that was shipped. But now this is not there. It is something that you have to wait for about the next 2 months or 3 months to actually get it working for you. This is another thing that I really wish these guys would have fixed before they showed up with this. Another new feature might be coming over to 3D Studio Max sometime in the years to come, I don't know when, is they're trying to unite the entire thing so that you can have the existing human IK that already works in both Maya and Motion Builder in 3D Studio Max. So probably for the guys that are working with Cat Rig or the guys working with Biped and Bones, I actually don't know why we still have those three things there. I think they should be able to actually fix all those things and maybe make the Cat Rig to be able to convert to Biped, or maybe make the Cat Rig to be able to convert to Bones, and you still keep your IK and FK. But either ways, they're saying that in subsequent years to come, you will be able to have the exact human IK that exists in Maya and also in Motion Builder directly in 3D Studio Max. The collaboration feature is also another thing that would be coming, as they are going ahead to work more on including things like the USD. And I talked about the USD some time ago when I talked about Clarice. Clarice now supports USD, and Maya already supports USD like a very long time ago. So they're suggesting and they're hoping that in years to come, maybe in months to come as well, you will be able to import USD and also Material X. And Material X is a new material or shading kind of format that is made possible by the guys at ILM, and it's something that they use for both Star Wars and all those things. So sooner than later, you'll be able to have that. But my big question is this: if they decide to include the Material X, is the OSL going to die? I don't know. Are we just going to just keep including things and not actually having one very stable feature to work with? Few things that they're also saying, which might not really make so much sense to you, especially if you're not into things like this, is they are coming up with Bifrost. We already know that they have been some sort of updates to Bifrost, but more and more things are going to be making their way to Bifrost. And these are basically the things that you would be able to see in the subsequent updates. Maybe other things might follow, but right now I don't see anything that actually talks more about cloth deformation. I don't see anything that really talks about hair deformation as well. I don't actually see anything that has to do with like very amazing VFX. I know that the particle stuff works, but I really wish that maybe there was going to be more tools. But this is another thing that I don't really like about 3D Studio Max. I think the guys working at Autodesk actually rely more on independent plugin developers than what they can actually issue out. Yes, we know that it is a base for you to start out with something, but it will make a lot of sense if something is directly native to an app. The hair system in 3D Studio Max have not been worked on for a very long time, and nobody really cares about that, rather than everybody's just expecting one plugin or the other to save the day. And these are my two takes about these things, and these are the things that are coming out. I am not so excited about this new update though, and I really wish that they had waited and all of these things that they've set it out for the roadmap, they actually fixed them in the new version that they just released. It would have made a lot of sense. It would have made 3D Studio Max fly, and I really wish that they had come true for all of the artists that are expecting these things. I would like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. We've seen incredible updates coming over to Houdini, Modo, and also Blender. That just to say the least, right? We've seen incredible updates coming over to these apps. But then when it comes to Autodesk products, it's either they are breaking something to put something new, or they're breaking the entire thing and putting nothing new. I would like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, simply give it a like, and don't forget to share it with a friend. And if you're new here, it's going to be incredible if you can just hit that subscribe button and also turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know once we come out with something like this. And until I see you guys next time with a tutorial review, Free Friday updates, tips and tricks, things like this. Peace.